Last time out in the Motorsport News Rally Championship, Chris West continued his Knockhill winning form with overall victory at Brands Hatch in his Peugeot 306. The circuit threw up plenty of challenges, with the hairpin putting an end to John Stone's charge when he got held up, pushing him out of contention. Also in the mix were Mark Kelly and temporary co-driver Neil Coleman, who finished just 19 seconds off the lead. Will Chris be spraying the champagne for victory again at Snetterton, or will he be finally displaced? Let's find out. Welcome to Snetterton in Norfolk for round 5 of the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship. We're into the second half of the season, and this weekend will provide a mixture of challenges for the competitors. Let's take a look at some of the entries for this weekend's action, which is organised by the Anglia Motorsport Club. Class A, always one of my favourites, with those little cars getting flung around. But for me, Ron Walker and Eamon McCubbin in that Ford KA is one of my favourites. Class B entries, well, top of the pile there, Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay in the Mazda MX-5, but also watch out for Abby Mahmood and Samantha Bartlett in that Suzuki Swift S1600 JWRC. Class C entries, so many to look forward to. A lot of Fords in there, but have a look out for Mike English and Andy Robinson in the Ford Escort Mark II. Class D1 entries, well, that's where you find the championship lead and the man in form, Chris West and Keith Hounslow in their Peugeot 306 Maxi kit car. But look out for a few others. Talbot Lotus Sunbeams, always my favourite too. Class D2 entries. This is where the cars get super fast, and Steve Finch and Sam Fordham in the Ford Fiesta R5, ones to watch out for there. Here's the layout for stages 1 and 2, and it's a tight, twisty, technical start around the paddock that leads into a high-speed blast around the circuit. There's something to suit everyone over this 6-mile stage. Down in the pit lane, the competitors are lining up ready for action. They'll be led away by Chris West and Keith Hounslow, seeded number 1 for this event and quickly setting the pace. What better way to blow away the cobwebs than sliding around in that rapid Peugeot. Chris absolutely flat to the boards in that 306, giving it the beans around Snetterton. Chasing hard are Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett, disappointed on their return after a couple of spins at Brands Hatch, but well up to speed in the early stages of this round. Right on the money and getting away with murder there, great work. Stephen and Jack Tilburn light up their tyres off the line. These Escorts can be a handful, but these guys know how to control that power. Nightmare for Kiro Carianti and Simon Coates as they managed to have a moment in front of our cameras for the second event in a row. Sorry lads, they'll recover to finish the stage 7th in class. Nice handbrake turn though. 4th overall and 2nd in class after the opening stages were Steve Finch and Sam Fordham in their Ford Fiesta R5. No heroics from this duo, just a solid quick time. Also going well were regulars Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford in that distinctive yellow Proton, Satry Millington. Fighting the power of their Ford Escort was Mark Kelly and Chris Williams, but they were down the order further than they'd hoped after a spin on this opening stage, dropping 21 seconds behind the leader, Chris West. They'll be playing catch-up all of the day. running 6th overall and delighted with how the day would pan out when Mike Bayliss and Richard James would in the championship regular BMW Compact. Even a bit of traffic on the stage didn't deter this pairing from a great finish. Back in action and looking to finish a rally for the first time in a year were Joshua and Tamsin Davey in their Darien T90. They would lead Class C in the early going, and let's take a ride on board with the pair now. Lovely stuff. On to stage 2, and Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett were leading the way in Class D2 thanks to this rapid driving and great car control. Just 7 seconds behind overall, and a mere 2 seconds off this stage was Steve Finch and Sam Ford nipping at their heels in their Fiesta. Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford were third quickest of the D2 runners on stage 2, just 7 seconds separating the top 3. A little further back in the overall times and 4th in class was the lovely Audi Quattro in the hands of Ray Reid and Stuart Anderson Peter, treating the large crowd to its unique engine tone. 5th in class after the opening stages were William and Stuart Moore in their Mitsubishi Lancer, tyres squealing and wastegate chattering away around Snetterton. Yes! Nice hairpin turn for Michael Walton and Jamie Vaughan in their Ford Focus 4x4. 6th quickest of the D2 runners ahead of David Daniel and Dennis Suttonwood running in their Mitsubishi Evo 6. Shooting through the smoke of another car's lock-up here are Neil Beaumont and Robert Swan in a Subaru Impreza, and you don't often see one of those on track with a Ford Anglia. Rounding off the D2 runners were Mark Goddard and Laszlo Erdo in their Ford Sierra Sapphire. Fastest overall, however, were Chris West and Keith Hounslow, 4 seconds faster than anyone else and already with a healthy lead. Despite that, as you can see, Chris weren't taking it easy. Throwing that Darien around at the front of Class C were Joshua and Tamsin Davey, who had their 14-second lead after 2 stages. Elsewhere, there was plenty of action for the crowd to enjoy. Abby Mahmood and Samantha Bartlett going full handbrake at the hairpin whilst leading Class B. Rounding off the class leaders, Mark and Matt Blackmore were comfortably leading Class A at the Vauxhall Corsa. Look at them chuck that thing around. It's like Widnes McDonald's in the late 90s. An honourable mention also goes to the nicest man in the world, Jeff Gurrier and Toby Marshall, who were running in a class of 1 in the MX5 class. Sadly, Robin Adams and Ray Keith had this spectacular moment right in front of our cameras. We had to include it. Sorry guys. Let's join Sam in the paddock.
So, how's your day going so far, Mike?
Well, we started off reasonably well. It's very, very slippery first stage. I think we put in 10th quickest time. Mixture of tyres, just trying to find the grip. Second stage, we've gone quicker, but we've got an alternator problem now, so Mike's trying to replace that in a minute. So we should be okay. Should get it done in time.
Yeah, well, I've noticed the spare on the floor, so that looks very positive. At least we're it's hopeful, and because we're going for the long game, aren't we here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're in the run for the championship and the points, and we're having this conversation. You've got to drive slightly differently. Instead of a bat out of hell, you just got to be a bit more measured, a bit more considered, play the long game, make sure we're there at the end. So little things, big things like alternators do matter.
Absolutely. I mean, your class is a really, really good class. You've got strong competitors in there, and you're having a really, really good battle so far, aren't you?
Yeah, it looks to be competitive. I believe there's some 29 in our class. So I'd rather be at the front end if we can today. That'd be good. Be helpful, wouldn't it? And it's about the championship points. Yeah. That's what we're going for.
So far you're having a really good morning, I'm led to believe.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Had a bit of a spin on the last stage, but it's still a bit slippery out there, but getting the grips with it now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the car's performing as it should do. The driver's not.
You've still got a bit of time to get warmed up into it yet, and I think the day's supposed to stay like this as well, so decent conditions?
Yeah, the conditions should hopefully improve now, and there's I've let the people in front get far enough ahead, so I've got something to chase. So I'll try and catch them up, make a few inroads into their times, and hopefully get somewhere back in the field properly.
Yeah. Fab, well keep it going and we'll catch up with you later on, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Sam. Here's how things stand after 2 stages. Class A results. And there you can see Mark Blackmore and Matt Blackmore absolutely head and shoulders above the rest of the guys in their Vauxhall Corsa. Class B, well, it's Abby Mahmood and Samantha Bartlett in that Suzuki Swift S1600 JWRC, 40 seconds ahead of that old fella, Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay in the MX-5 Mazda. Class C, and look at that, Joshua Davey and Tamsin Davey right on it in the Darien T90, but it's so close, 16 seconds covering the top 4. Class D1, and it's Chris West and Keith Hounslow in the 306 Maxi kit car. How many times have we said that this season? But it's only 25 seconds behind Stephen Tilburn and Jack Tilburn in their Ford Escort. Class D2, and look at that for a top 3. That's amazing. Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett leading the way in their Ford Focus WRC, but only 2 seconds behind Steve Finch and Sam Fordham in their Ford as well. Overall, though, there's a mix of D1 runners and D2 runners. Chris West leading the way by 25 seconds with Keith Hounslow, but look at that. Class C there, Joshua Davey and Tamsin Davey and their Darien right in there. Welcome back to the Anglia Motor Club organised Snetterton stages, round 5 of the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship. There's a good crowd on hand and there's more than one amateur photographer ready for some action. So let's have a look at what awaits the competitors for stages 3 and 4. Well, it's similar to stages 1 and 2. There's a tight and technical start through the paddock before heading onto the circuit, through the S's and using a tricky cut through, which will have to be taken at speed. Chris West is first up, and he's still flying out there, continuing to open his lead both in the D1 and overall. Also on the limit are Mark Kelly and Chris Williams in their Ford Escort, making up ground they lost earlier in the day and climbing 3 places into 2nd place overall after 3 stages. Third of the Class D1 runners was the Escort of Stephen and Jack Tilburn, dropping a little time on the stage but still pushing hard. Flicking up cones, flicking up all they could find. Making up time after the morning spin was Kiro Carianti and Simon Coates. They were 7th fastest overall and 4th quickest in D1. Another Escort was 5th in class, Pete and Maria Rayner, enjoying a good run through the morning session. On board with Mike Bayliss and Richard Wood in their BMW Compact now, working very hard for 6th in class on stage 3 and 8th overall. Go Mike! Sean Weston and Dean Mevo were 7th in Class D1 in another Ford Escort, smartly keeping out of trouble during the slippery morning conditions. A little further back, John Spires and Howard Pridmore were out in this classic Porsche 911 and understandably not throwing it around too much. 9th in class was Dean Fewings and Bob Smith, and they were using all the power of their V8 Triumph TR7, sounding glorious on this Norfolk morning. Rounding off the D1 runners were Kevin Jarvis and Robert Pomfret in their Ford Sierra Cosworth. Leading in Class D2 still were Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett, but their lead was reduced to just 2 seconds when they lost time, running wide here. Joshua and Tasmin Davey continued to lead Class C despite catching traffic. That is something that competitors have to bear in mind in the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship. Car sounding pokey as ever. Traffic was also an issue for Class B leaders Abby Mahmood and Samantha Bartlett, as Gary Mason and John Matthews looked for every way past the Suzuki Swift JWRC and then had to do it all over again after this spin. It was a similar story for Mark and Matt Blackmore, leading Class A in their Vauxhall Corsa, as they had to contend with several cars but remained well ahead in the times. Fighting their way through traffic well in the MX-5 class was Jeff Gurrier and Toby Marshall. They kept out of trouble. Back on board with Mike Bayliss and Richard James Wood in their BMW as they navigate a slower car. Nicely done. Unfortunately, Mark Anderson and Ian Humphrey scored a stage maximum after stopping with a problem which dropped the Class A runners right down the order. The dramas continued for Gary Mason and John Matthews, but luckily their spin into the tyres didn't cause any lasting damage. Tidy pirouette for Mike Lacey and Brian Marquez's Nissan Micra as well. Good effort. Moving on to stage 4 and running through the monster entry of Class C machines. Still leading the way were Joshua and Tamsin Davey in their Darien T90, busy at the wheel as this onboard shows. Great stuff. Robin Adams and Ray Keith were enjoying a good run in second place in class in their tail-happy Ford Escort. Third in Class C were Mike English and Andy Robinson doing the smart thing and keeping out of the way of the faster runners here. Aaron Ricks and Rob Cook were just a few seconds behind English and Robinson during stage 4, while Ryan Connolly and Chris Allen were a mere 2 seconds behind the Escort. Kathy Seward and Colin Stevens were also enjoying a good run in their Talbot Lotus Sunbeam, 6th fastest on the stage and 5th fastest in class at the midpoint of the day. Martin Ellis and Clive Leatherby were next in their Renault Clio Cup, a good stage putting them within a second of 8th place in class after 4 stages. 8th quickest of the Class C runners during the stage were Andy Wizard and Ashley Davis in another Ford Escort, just hanging onto that slide there. The MX-5 of Steve Dolman and Paul Gudge were 9th quickest in this stage and 7th in class overall, keeping things sensible through the morning stages. Rounding out the top 10 in Class C for stage 4 were John and Josh Pearson in their Escort. On board with newcomers Nigel Greensall and James Proudfoot in their Toyota GT86 as they keep calm while trying to pass a Class A Micra. Despite the pair's low seeding, they were 11th quickest through this stage. Top man is our Nige. Just a couple of seconds behind was the MG ZR in the hands of Alan Jackson and Ian Faulkner. And finishing equal on time with the MG for this stage was the 205 GTI of Ivan and Adam Schaefer. Leading Class D1 and comfortably overall were still Chris West and Keith Hounslow. Chris still not getting the hang of this, taking it easy lark. Sadly, Class D2 leaders Nigel Mummery and Fiona Scarrett suffered a power steering failure during stage 4, which ultimately ended their day. Lucky not to hit the fence as well. This promoted Steve Finch and Sam Fordham to the lead of the class, doing well to keep Mark Kelly and Chris Williams behind them there. Leading Class A by a large margin remained Mark and Matt Blackmore in their Vauxhall Corsa. Lads. Firing into the lead of Class B after an engine mount problem for Abby Mahmood and Samantha Bartlett was Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay in the MX-5. There were further problems also for Gary Mason and John Matthews. Let's join Sam in the paddock.
So, not really the start that we wanted to do. Not had a great start.
No, it's not been going particularly well, to be honest. We hit a chicane on the first stage, so we lost a lot of time there. Stage 2 wasn't too bad, and then we were going pretty well in stage 3. Then all of a sudden, every time we were changing down a gear, it was just making really loud banging noise. So we ended up coming in early, a lap early on stage 3. Team tried to diagnose, but we haven't figured out what it is yet. So we went back out and tried stage 4, but it was doing the same again. So we're now got a bit longer for the lunch break, so we're taking the sump guard off and having a proper look and seeing if we can diagnose. But we'll try our best to get back out and just pick up some championship points, but at the moment it's been going pretty slowly for the last couple of stages.
And we've just been saying, although it's kind of a long game, isn't it? I mean, this championship hasn't quite gone how you wanted it to so far this year, has it?
No, it hasn't. Last year we only did 7 rounds and we finished all 7 absolutely fine, no problems. And this year the clutch went out round 1 in Oulton Park. We had our big crash at Knockhill, and now we've had problems here today. So 3 out of 5 haven't gone so well so far. So we'll just need to do whatever we can today to at least make sure we can get some points.
Yeah. In theory, this is your 3 now, so in theory, the rest of the championship should go really, really smoothly.
Exactly, let's hope so.
Let's think like that.
Yeah.
Fab, well, I hope you get sorted and I hope you get the rest of the day out.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So we've said throughout this championship, one of the best things about it is that you can do it in anything. This is something that you don't normally see though, so we just wanted to have a bit of a chat to you about it. Tell us about it.
Well, I've had my share of escorts, but I got a bit bored with them and thought I'd build an escort into an Anglia shell.
Yeah?
So it is an escort, really.
Okay.
Had loads of engines in it, Cosworths, Vauxhalls, twin cams over the years, and built it back in 1987.
Wow, okay.
So it's been about a while.
Exciting. Well, we wondered what was in it because we were just saying before, we saw you out there on stage 1 and you had somebody quite close behind you, and then next thing you'd gone. So we were wondering what you had in it, but it was fab to see. Tell me a bit about it from your side of the car. You are father-daughter team, aren't we?
I started rallying with Dad when I was 16, but a funny story we were talking about earlier. When I was a baby, Dad was doing this rally, and my mum was standing on the side holding me when I was, what was I, probably...
In one of them pouch type
Yeah,
things.
and apparently I heard this same car and I'd perk up when I heard it go fast, so I recognised the engine at that little age. Yeah.
That is an amazing story. So to be back here now, in the car, rallying with your dad must be pretty...
Yeah, pretty cool.
And how do we get on as a team? Is it a good
Oh,
team?
yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And I'm a driving instructor, so I taught to drive a couple of years ago, 3 years ago as well.
3 lessons.
But she's not getting it go. I'm not going to passenger. We're not swapping roles.
I don't think I'd want you to passenger.
Get that car wired for sound and let's get a GoPro in it for the next round. So Class A results and romping away. Mark Blackmore and Matt Blackmore in the Vauxhall Corsa by 1 minute and 6 seconds from that MG ZR. Class B, and it's the trusty old Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay in the Mazda MX-5. 2 minutes and 17 seconds ahead of Tony Mitchell and Paul Barrett in that Honda Civic. Moving on to Class C, Joshua Davey and Tamsin Davey. Look at them flying in that Darien T90. Can they keep it up? 45 seconds ahead of Robin Adams and Ray Keith in their Ford Escort RS. Class D1, Chris West and Keith Hounslow. 37 seconds ahead of Mark Kelly and Chris Williams in their Ford Escort Mark II. The 306 looking unstoppable around Snetterton. Class D2 results, and it's Steve Finch and Sam Fordham out front in the Ford Fiesta R5. 43 seconds ahead of Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford in the Proton Satria Millington. Overall though, it's Chris West and Keith Hounslow out front in the 306. Mark Kelly and Chris Williams fighting hard to stay in contention in the Ford Escort Mark II. But look at that Class C car, the Darien T90, up there in 5th place. For stages 5 and 6, competitors will undertake 2 laps of the circuit before coming off onto the access roads and finishing through the paddock into the pit lane. Let's join Sam in the paddock.
Straight on to this afternoon's stages. All the stages from this morning are going to be reversed now, so let's see how this changes things.
Continuing our run through the big entry in Class C, and the recovering Gary Mason and John Matthews are flying around in their Escort, as are Mark Wade and Jonathan Williams in the Chevette. John and Laura Coolidge are flinging that fantastic Ford Anglia 105E around, while up next in class are Neil Dodd and Laura Wilkes in the MG ZR. John Carroll and Rob Ginn were finding the edge in their Honda Civic, also giving their all were David Large and David Ottaway in their lovely Mark II Escort. John Skoltok and David Gallen were a little more sedate in their yellow Escort RS 2000, but just ahead of them was the 205 of Paul and Mark Quinnell. Another 205 was also in action in the hands of Paul and Sandra Merriweather. Heading the Class B field and expertly slicing through the chicane is my mate Paul Sheard. He's giving that little Mazda everything as he fires through the twisty paddock section. He's actually not that bad, is he? Tony Michael and Paul Barrett were showing well in their Honda Civic and holding a strong second place ahead of Ashley Morris and Jamie McTavish in their Ford Fiesta. So let's go on board and join them.
They're up here to tight 9 left. And then 9 right.
After a bit of a faltering start, the duo are well into their groove and putting in some solid times to run third in class. Almost getting it a bit wrong as we go back on board, but she's doing a great job.
And then 9 right. And then straight down. And then 9 right on the circuit.
Meanwhile, flinging his Peugeot 306 about like a madman is Chris West. Just look at that for commitment. Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford were going great guns in their Proton Satria, running second in the top class, but they were still trying to hunt down this car. The Ford Fiesta R5 of Steve Finch and Sam Fordham, although this detour over the grass won't have done them any favours. Maybe they knew the photographer. Going on board with Tamsin and Joshua Davey now in their Darien T90 as they thread through the chicane. They're having a great run, as is this little Corsa of Mark and Matt Blackmore as they continue to lead in Class A. But let's hand over to Sam, who's in the paddock.
So maybe not quite the start that you wanted. I know that you came here today to challenge Chris a little bit and give him a bit of a push, but we had 2 spins on the first stage, didn't we?
We did. I mean, we had a long drive down yesterday, and all we've spoken about was, right, we're going to take it to Chris, and then it sort of went out the window on stage 1. Yeah, two spins, totally unexpected, and happened very quickly. So I couldn't catch the car in time.
But you're back up to second now, so there's still 4 stages left. It's still all to play for.
It is, and you know, it's rallying, so anything can happen, and hopefully now we can have 4 clean stages without traffic. And look, you know what we're like, we'll give it everything we've got, and if Chris makes a mistake, then we're there to take advantage of it. So yeah, we'll see, but we'll certainly keep on trying.
Absolutely. Well, keep pushing because he might feel the pressure. And you've got a new co-driver in for this round as well. Are we blaming him for those 2 spins?
It's nothing to do with me. All to do with the greasy conditions. But yeah, phenomenal to be sat here. And I think when we looked at the times after the first one, we sort of said that we realised that we could get second, and that was the aim for the rest of the day after we realised we're giving ourselves too much to do to Chris. So, delighted to be second, and hopefully, as we say, we're there to pick up the pieces if Chris makes a mistake or something happens. So,
great stuff. Let's get straight into stage 6 as we run through the Class A runners, and leading the way by nearly 2 minutes are Mark and Matt Blackmore with a very take-notice colour scheme on that Corsa. Dale and Andrew Lawson were once again going flat out in their MG ZR, running in a solid second place in class ahead of David Smalley and Rob Kitchen in the Corsa. The nimble machine making light work of the twisty infield section. Mark Anderson and Ian Humphreys suffered some bad luck in stage 3 after running as high as 4th in Class A, but despite their best efforts, they would retire from stage 7. Championship regulars Adam and Ray Ripper certainly enjoyed themselves in their little Nissan Micra and giving it their all, as does Chris Aston in his Toyota Yaris with Nick Baker on co-driving duty. The Jaffa Ford KA of Ron Walker and Amy McCubbin always looks fast in that orange paint scheme with its flared bodywork. Going hell for leather in their Nissan Micra is Mike Lacey and Brian Marquez. They may be last on the road, but they are loving it. Meanwhile, back at the front of the rally with the Class D2 runners, the Proton of Anthony Robinson is still hunting down that Ford Fiesta of Steve Finch and is not leaving anything on the table. The number 8 Fiesta is trying hard, at times a bit too hard. Let's join Chris West on board. It's mega seeing him work away at that wheel, absolutely pinned on the limit, leaving nothing on the table. This boy is the benchmark. Joshua Davey tries to match Chris for style points, sliding it out the hairpin. as fast as Class C runner, and it's a nice handbrake turn as well. Paul Sheard continues to lead Class B in his distinctive Mazda, almost showing those cones. Who's the boss? But unfortunately, teammate Steve Dolman and Paul Gorge got it very wrong at the hairpin and then reenacted a scene from Cannonball Run.
I can't see anything. Can you?
Versatile racer Nigel Greensaw was out in his Toyota GT86 and kicking up the dust, whilst the hairpin was claiming yet more victims. Ivan and Adam Chafer backfiring their way around it. Ashley Morris was taking more of a bulldozer approach. What has this hairpin ever done to any of you lot? Here's Sam with some more interviews.
So, a new car for you this year. We're not used to seeing you in this, but you are absolutely flying in it.
Yeah, it's taken a bit of getting used to, but it's only a one-off event for us, so it's my dad's car, so I've got to look after it a bit. So, but no, we're going a lot better than what we expected, to be fair. We sort of, coming into the event, I was aiming for sort of top 40 sort of stage times, and obviously I think we're like in the top 15, so it's a bit different to what we expected anyway.
You've not done an event for 10 months now, have you, since the championship last year? So it hasn't taken you very long to get used to it, has it?
No, it was a long gap, and I said we sort of laughed and saying could be both of us be a bit rusty today, but I sort of got in the car and clicked, didn't we, from the first stage? So we can't ask for any more than that.
We've certainly not been rusty, have we? We've been on it today.
Rusty? I think he took the WD-40 out and got the rust out on the first stage. It's been absolutely brilliant.
As usual, Chris, as we've come to know with this season, you are having a really, really good day. I think 32 seconds now in the lead.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, it's really good. We don't come here to make the numbers up, just on the pace, straight out of the box, really. We were a bit cautious this morning because it was a bit damp and greasy, but we just worked from there, really.
You and cautious just doesn't go in the same sentence, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there is a little bit of cautious with me, not much, but there is a little bit. I mean, I never go out to prove anything really. It's more proving to myself. I'm one of them people. If I don't get 100% out of myself, it's very frustrating for me. So I always go to do my 100%, and if that isn't enough to beat other people, then at least I know I've given it 100%, and that's what I'm doing today, really.
So this morning is now done. We're on to the afternoon. How are things going for you out there?
They're going fantastic, actually. I think it's the best I've ever driven the car. I have to say, the setup on the car is superb today. I was worried about the dry conditions. I either like it really wet or dry. In the wet, you've got a chance against the powerful machinery. But here, we're holding our own today. I was a bit worried about my seeding at 18th, but actually, we seem to be beating that at the minute. So I'm well happy. Yeah, the car's going. The first stage, I just decided you've always got to be quick out the box, as we always know, and it's really hard when everything's cold and you're cold. So I just thought on the first stage, I'd just go for it. And we had a couple of moments. I was sideways on the grass and took out a couple of boards along here in front of the grandstands. We managed to hold it together. We had a wobbly moment into a chicane, but apart from that, we're on it, absolutely on it. It's going really well.
Well, we were watching you on that last stage, and coming at this open hairpin left at the top, you were flying around there. You just lifted. You didn't even brake. You just lifted, and then power was straight back on.
Yeah, I think, like I say, the preparation on the car is superb as always, and it's just handling really, really well, and that makes all the difference. So, yeah, it's going well. I just don't want to jinx it for the last two. Yeah. We're just trying to stay ahead of Ryan Connolly at the minute, so for the class position.
I know. That class that you guys are in is a really, really good, strong class, isn't it? And I mean, you, Mike and Ryan seem to be having a really, really good battle up there.
In Class A, the Blackmores have got an almost unassailable lead of 1 minute and 46 seconds over Dale and Andrew Lawson, but anything can happen, so fingers crossed for them in the final two stages, while David Smalley and Rob Kitchen hold on to third in their Corsa. Class B is a little light, but you've got to be in it to win it, and that's going the way of Paul Sheard at the moment, who leads by over 4 minutes from Tony Mitchell and Paul Barnett. Mind you, he has been giving that Mazda some stick today. The Fiesta of Ashley Morris and Jamie McTavish lies third. Class C is crazy competitive, with Joshua and Tamsin Davey out front in their Darien, but there's only 30 seconds between third, fourth and fifth places, and the flamboyant Ryan Connolly can never be discounted. Well, it's no surprise that Chris West and Keith Hounslow lead Class D1, 42 seconds ahead of Mark Kelly and Chris Williams in their Mark II Ford Escort. Stephen and Jack Tilburn are 51 seconds behind and are ideally placed to take advantage should anything happen to the leading pair. Steve Finch and Sam Fordham lead the way in the D2 class in their lovely, lovely Ford Fiesta R5. But Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford are only 39 seconds behind, and they're having a good day in that Proton Satria. Ray Reid and Stuart Anderson-Peters maintain third place in their Audi Quattro. In the overall standings after stage 6, it's the Peugeot of Chris West which leads the way, the D1 runners locking out the top 3 places. Steve Finch is the highest D2 runner, with the Darien of Joshua Davey just behind him. There's just 2 stages left to run, 2 laps comprising of a blast around the circuit and 2 final tours around the tight and technical paddock section. With a considerable lead out front, you might think that Chris West and Keith Hounslow are taking things easy. Nope, look at this onboard. He's still well on the limit, absolutely pinned in that 306 Maxi. That cone was lucky. The car absolutely on the limit, precise driving from Chris and Keith Hounslow there. Chasing hard and finishing stage 7 just 1 second behind were Mark Kelly and Chris Williams in their Ford Escort. But for that slight mishap this morning, they would surely be at the fight today. Stephen and Jack Tilburn's Escort was also flying along nicely, 3rd quickest overall and in Class D1. Back on board with Joshua and Tamsin Davey in the Darien T90, leaders in Class C, 4th quickest on the stage and 5th quickest overall. Enjoying a comfortable lead in Class D2 and running just 3 seconds off the top 3 overall were Steve Finch and Sam Fordham in their Fiesta R5. But they couldn't take things too easily as Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford continued to nip at their heels in their Proton Satria 90. 7th quickest on the stage and putting pressure on Peter Maria Reina for 7th overall were Kiro Carianti and Simon Coates with their Porsche Cayman, making up for that stage 1 spin. And here is the Ford Escort of Peter Maria Reina, pressing on with that pressure from the Porsche duo. Robin Adams and Ray Keith continued their strong showing, 2nd fastest of the Class C runners and 9th overall, just managing to keep it out of the fence here. Mike Bayliss and Richard Wood have also been enjoying a good run throughout the day, top 10 on this stage and safely within the top 10 overall. The trusty BMW going great guns. Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay perhaps could take things easy with a big lead in Class B, but almost come undone right in front of our camera. Catching it just in time. You need to give up, mate. It was the same situation for Mark and Matt Blackmore, dominating Class A all through the day, and they were set for a class win and an excellent 17th overall. Sadly, Kathy Stewart and Colin Stevens suffered mechanical woes right at the end of the day. They'd finished the event, but it dropped down the order after losing time. Now, where else in rallying would you see a Ford Anglia being pursued by a V8 Triumph TR7? Crazy. Love it. A bit of traffic for the recovering Mark Anderson and Ian Humphrey to contend with as they caught Paul and Mark Quinnell, but sadly the Puma wouldn't make it out to the final stage of the day. Pressing on in their Puma was Ryan Connolly and Chris Allen as usual, 4th in Class C and getting sideways around the paddock section. On to the final stage of the day, Chris West and Keith Hounslow still pushing hard in that Peugeot 306 Maxi. If you don't believe me, look how close they get to the barriers here. My word, lads. Over the line with the fastest time of the stage and a 45-second margin of victory for the pair. Mark Kelly and Chris Williams gave a good account, just 1 second off the stage lead, but they were always fighting their morning spins, but finished 2nd overall with a comfortable margin. third overall, and in Class D1, Stephen and Jack Tilburn also had a strong showing in their Ford Escort. Steve Finch and Sam Fordham took the honours in Class D2, finishing the day 4th overall as they managed to fend off the best efforts of Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford. A final on board in the Darien T90 with Joshua and Tamsin Davey taking the win in Class C with this exercise in car control. As mentioned earlier, Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford pressed hard in their Proton, but would have to settle for second place in Class D2 and a solid 6th overall. Peter Maria Rayner took 4th in Class D1 and 7th overall in their Ford Escort. A good time in Stage 8 helping them along to that result. 5th in D1 and 8th overall were Kiro Carianti and Simon Coates with their Porsche Cayman ahead of the Ford Escort of Robin Adams and Ray Keith, who took 2nd in the fiercely contested Class C. Rounding out the top 10 overall were Mike Bayliss and Richard Wood. Listen to that laugh. Richard's enjoying himself there. A well-deserved handshake for the pair. Class B went to Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay, and Class A was wrapped up by Mark and Matt Blackmore, who were the pairing to beat all day long in that Vauxhall Corsa. There was still time to put some sideways stuff on though. Sean Weston and Dean Mevo putting on a show, while Gary Mason and John Matthews just about kept their Escort pointed the right way. Champagne flowing in the paddock. Let's join Sam with the top 3 finishes.
Really good result today, 3rd overall. You've got to be pleased with that.
Yeah, it's fantastic for us. I think there should be an award for the oldest people on the podium, really. That should be, we're number 1 at that. A great day, fantastic. Stages are good, and the series has just gone from strength to strength. It's fantastic, really good.
Fab, what's it been like from your side of the car, Jack?
Well, I tried to look as much as I can at my maps, but it's always an inspiration looking at the footwork and the crazy arms that are going on beside me. But today I'd like to try, or hope that I've done enough to get him where he is here. Yeah.
Fab, well, you've got to be pleased with it. It is an awesome result. Massive congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, guys, you came to push Chris, you came to challenge him. You've got a comfortable 2nd there. It's been a good day?
Yeah, we've had a great day. Not as close as we'd have liked to Chris, but then not looking back to 3rd, we've got a nice gap. So the afternoon for us was spot on, and I can have no complaints. And we were on it in the afternoon, and Chris was still quicker. So, you know, as I always say, you can only do your best. And if there's a quicker man, then fair play to him, and he was today. So, congratulations to the 2 of them.
And new co-driver sitting in, obviously, for this round. How's it been?
It's been phenomenal. Yeah. Great to get the result. Obviously, we would have liked to, I think, gone and pipped Chris, but wasn't to be after stage 1 this morning. So yeah, we set the game plan to finish 2nd, and it's the best we could have hoped for, and that's what we've done. So you know, this afternoon's been, as Mark says, faultless, and you know, it's been phenomenal to be sat there and have the pleasure to sit there. It's been great. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Guys, massive congratulations once again. You are on the ball this season, aren't you? You are doing well. Another championship win under your belt.
Yeah, no, really good. You know, I couldn't do it without all my family and friends and sponsors and that. It's an emotional thing for me because we have to work so hard to do this because I've not got a massive amount of money, and you know, everybody has to put their time in. All my service crew and family, and you know, all the sponsors that have been helping me out. Without them, I just wouldn't be able to do it. So you know, it's a real good thing, and I'm pleased when I win. I really am.
Absolutely. And it's always really good to see. I mean, they are just there now, aren't they? And it's such a good feeling when you come over to your service area because they're all 100% behind you. Yeah. Massive congratulations again.
Thanks, yeah, it's a really good day. Yeah, we've had a good run from the start and it's been a good result. Driven brilliantly as always.
Helps having a good
really
co-driver,
good. Really good. Good day. Great.
Thanks, Sam. Happy faces, that's what we like to see. The championship going from strength to strength. So, Class A results, Mark Blackmore and Matt Blackmore doing the business in that Vauxhall Corsa. They've been my favourites all day. 2 minutes 15 seconds ahead of that MGZR. Great result. Class B, my old mate Paul Sheard and Bruce Lindsay in that Mazda MX-5. 4 minutes 38 seconds ahead of Tony Mitchell and Paul Barrett in the Honda Civic. Class C results, and Joshua Davey and Tamsin Davey will be super happy with the Darien T90 finishing at the top of the Class C results board. Robin Adams and Ray Keith in their Ford Escort RS in second place. Class D1, Chris West and Keith Hounslow, the usual at the minute in the 306 Maxi, taking the honours with Mark Kelly and Chris Williams 45 seconds behind in their Ford Escort Mark II. Class D2 results, Steve Finch and Sam Fordham in that Ford Fiesta R5, 48 seconds ahead of Anthony Robinson and Ross Ford in that Proton Satria Millington. So the overall result of the rally with Chris West and Keith Hounslow in the 306 doing the business, 45 seconds behind in that Ford Escort Mark II was Mark Kelly and Chris Williams, but that Darien T90 from Class C in top 5, a great effort. Chris West opens up a big lead in the Michelin Cup Championship with another win today, while Paul Sheard and Ryan Connolly close in on second place. Here's how the 2018-19 championship results stand. Chris West on 297 points, quite a healthy lead, and you have to look down to Kiro Carianti in 6th place as the next driver. So that's it. It's been a great day of action once again. Next time we're at Donington Park as we close into the final rounds of the Motorsport News Rally Championship. Join us then and see how things went.